In 2014, over 1 million individuals in the UK were given 3 days emergency food support. That's almost 3,000 users for each day of the year. Why has there been a sudden spike in Foodbank users in recent years? Who runs these important facilities? The Trussell Trust is the leading force in tackling the UK's food crisis, which is evidently plaguing millions. The increasing reliance on food banks is evident in the numbers. In 2004, the Trussell Trust ran only 2 food banks in the UK. Today, they have over 400, providing emergency food parcels to millions. Today, we're in Manchester to visit volunteers at the Trussell Trust Manchester Central Food Bank. We're here to speak to those who are responsible for making this particular food bank possible. On initially arriving at the food bank, the client will take a seat in this room, styled similar to a niche cafe. Here, they can have a drink and some biscuits whilst one of the volunteers check their paperwork. Once the credentials on the paperwork have been checked, the volunteer will then make their way to the food storage area to start creating the client's emergency food parcel. In this room, there are hundreds of food items, all sorted by weight and food type. Trussell Trust have an already set list from which the volunteer works from, and this list contains the following items. Each day, the food bank must organise several food parcels. Each parcel is different depending on how many adults or children are in need of emergency food. This can range from 1 adult to a family of 4. Before each parcel is given to the client, they are placed into plastic bags. Having shopping bags instead of crates or boxes allows the client to feel as though they've been shopping, a normal and everyday experience for most. Once given their 3-day emergency food package, the client is free to leave, happy in the knowledge that they can feed themselves and their families thanks to the generosity of the food bank volunteers and those that donate. Due to the success of the Manchester Central Food Bank, the food storage is currently being updated. The new warehouse, located just outside the building, will house more food, meaning that those in need of emergency parcels will benefit. What is the purpose for your participation at Foodbank?
Well, I just think it's a really good service, and people are really fortunate in Manchester that we have lots of Trussell Trust food banks around. There's a lot of people in bad situations, especially at this time of year during Christmas, because they're feeling the squeeze because the holidays are so expensive. So it's good that people can come and have a place where they can get a few days worth of food, and it's good to be a part of that.
Okay, why do you think that there has been an increase in the number of people at food banks?
Well, we collect data on all of our clients because we're part of the Trussell Trust, so we can see that the most common reason people come in is benefit delays or benefit sanctions, so I would say it's a lot to do with that.
And why do you think the reasons are for people coming to food banks more now?
Well, as I said, mainly it's benefit delays, benefit sanctions, and especially around this time of year because of the holidays.
And do you think the general public have a good understanding and awareness of what food banks do?
I think we're quite well known, but you do sometimes see articles like sort of bashing food banks. I don't think people really understand the situations that people are in that are leading them to come into food banks.
All right, great, thanks. What is the purpose for your participation at food banks?
I'm just interested in working in frontline services, and recently the demand for food banks has got a lot greater, so obviously the demand for volunteers has increased massively as well.
Why do you think there's been an increase of the number of people at food banks?
Well, it's mainly economic reasons. We're seeing a lot of problems with benefits, and also increase in homelessness, and I think generally just everyone's feeling the middle is feeling very squeezed in Britain, I think.
Do you think homelessness is a big part of why food banks are becoming increasingly more in demand?
No, not really actually, because I think only 8% of our clientele is actually street homeless, so the majority of people we deal with is benefit problems actually.
Okay. Do you think people have a good understanding and awareness of food banks?
I think it's getting better, but I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about how desperate a lot of these people are. You know, a lot of people come to us who haven't eaten for 2-3 days even, so this really is like the bottom line safety net for a lot of people.
We spoke to Dan, project manager, and asked him about his thoughts on the increased reliance on food banks and how they are able to cope with such high demand. From only having 2 banks over 10 years ago, in comparison to the number of food banks currently under the Trussell Trust, what factors do you think manufactured this growth in the number of food banks?
I think the general growth has just been because of the demand, so if the demand wasn't there, the food banks wouldn't be there. In the past couple of years, we've seen, in particular this food bank, a growing number of benefit delays, benefit sanctions, and just general low income, causing a big increase in people using our food bank. So I think maybe the rising cost of products, gas, electricity, food, general inflation, combined with benefit delays and sanctions, causing more and more people in Manchester City Centre to use the food banks, hence why we have, I think it's going to be over 10 now as of next year, with another one opening soon.
With more and more people becoming reliant on food banks, how do you promote the Trussell Trust and the services you provide to those requiring relief?
Although I wasn't involved with the food bank when it first started up, I know there was a lot of work contacting agencies, so going out speaking to local businesses, local charities, asking if they can donate to the food bank, and in terms of charities and other agencies, can they refer people to the food bank. More lately we found that it's people contacting us asking if they can use our service, so I think food banks is sort of a household name now, in particular the Trussell Trust brand, so people know that when they come to use our food bank they're going to get a sort of good level of service. It's usually the same type and size of food parcel, so we don't have to do too much work in promoting it. I think it's just generally out there that Trussell Trust is a good food bank to use, and people are always happy to contact us and try and become distributors of our vouchers.
So a vast amount of people at food banks every week would require a new supply of stock every day. What methods of supply chains do you use to get the stock available to give out to people at the food banks, and which method is the most important in terms of the value of the goods you receive?
Well, you are right, we give out, I think it's sometimes up to 600-700 kilograms of food each week, so there's a lot of food that we need to get in. We have sort of 2 main ways of getting the food. The first is our large food drive, so we do 2 large food drives in conjunction with Tesco every year, one in the summer and then one at Christmas time. That's something that Trussell Trust and Tesco arrange nationally for all large Tesco Extra stores and all their Trussell Trust food banks. It just involves 3 days of basically standing outside Tesco, speaking to customers, asking people to donate as they go in. You get a sort of regular drip feeding of donations, so I think our most recent one last week in December got about just under maybe 2,000 kilograms of food, which will obviously last us many months. The other main way we get food in is with regular small donations, so one thing that I do is a lot of work with local businesses, local stores, schools, other agencies who want to donate. That can be as simple as organising a donation in an office at the university, or having a permanent collection bin at maybe the Tesco or Sainsbury's local up the road. And we found really good support from local businesses, partly because of the location, I think.
How much relief do you provide those coming into food banks, and in what ways do you think the relief provided have helped individuals?
Obviously, the main form of release is the food parcel. So people come in and we give them a food parcel that will last them and their household about 3 days. Some people can make it sort of stretch to sort of 3, 4, 5 days, but generally about 3 days worth of food. But in addition to that, a simple thing we do is just take a time to speak to the Foodbank clients. So when they come in, they're offered a cup of tea, slice of toast, and there's always a volunteer there just to sort of sit with them and talk over their issues, or just discuss generally what's going on in their life. A lot of people that use the food bank are coming from very difficult situations, sometimes quite chaotic situations. So just a simple thing like taking the time to talk to them really does mean a lot to people. And it's quite sad, but sometimes people will say that this is the first time someone's been nice to me in a week. Just a really simple conversation for us means a lot to them. The final way in which we give people relief is we try to signpost them to other agencies that can help them. So obviously the food bank is an emergency service. We don't want people to have to rely on the service or use it too frequently. So in addition to providing the food parcel, if we discuss what the situation is, we have work with the client or with the distributor who's referred them to try and signpost them to other agencies and charities that can help them get out of their situation as well.
We asked the people of Manchester if they were aware of the services of food banks and if they knew where their local food bank was.
Yes, I know what they offer from television, but no, I don't know where they are.
Yeah. And how important do you think food banks are to those in need of them?
I think they're important, but I think they can drive the wrong things. So people can come to rely on them. So I'm one of these people who feel that people should try and do things for themselves if they can, but I accept that there are people who can't, and therefore there is a need for them, as long as they don't become a reliance.
I'm aware of them, but I don't know where my local one is.
Right, okay. And with that, how important do you think food banks are to the people that are in need of them?
I think as long as the food's getting to the right people, I think that's the most important thing. I think as long as they can work alongside supermarkets so they're not thrown away all the food they have at the end of the day, I think that's the most important thing, because I'd argue that food banks wouldn't be necessary if the supermarkets did something proper with their wasted food.
Well, I live in Liverpool, Halewood, so don't really know where the nearest one is, to be honest. I'm aware of what they do,
And how important do you think food banks are to people who need them?
Well, I think they're very important at the moment with the economic crisis that the country is in, and the growing number of people who find themselves in dire straits. So yeah, I think they're really essential at the moment. Yeah.
Talking about food banks, obviously it's becoming an increasing issue at the minute with food wastage and things. So if you did ever find yourself in a position of needing the service of a food bank, would pride be an issue for you?
I wouldn't like to say so, but it probably would be.
Yeah.
I actually visited a food bank, not for myself, but to film it, because I am a journalism student, a few weeks ago, the largest one in Newcastle. They feed 1,000 people every week, and one of the organisers there was telling me that a lot of them can be quite tearful and quite embarrassed about coming in. So, I mean, I understand, because it's a horrible position to be in. But I mean, if I was desperate for food, I don't think that pride would stop me from going to one. And I don't think that it should stop anybody from going to one.
The new, bigger and better warehouse will need to be fully stocked. This is where you come in. Donating or giving up your time at your local food bank is easy, and doing so could save the life of another